All right. Priorities, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to show you 5 priorities that are the most important things at losing body fat. These are not biased based on supplements or brands or companies or magazine articles. These are scientific-based facts you can find in clinical trials and in the real world, and you could also take my word for it because I've done this with thousands of people. The top 5 ways to lose fat, and the order of priority from most to least important. Anybody guess what number 1 is? This is regarding a meal plan. This is specifically nutritionally speaking. Any guesses? What's the number 1 most important thing?
Protein. Portion size.
Who said protein? Who said portion? Who said water? Is that it? Any other guesses? Okay, no one hit it yet.
No fat.
No fat? Okay, ready?
Tea.
Adherence. I can give you the perfect plan. I can have every biochemist, nutritionist, and athlete in the world hired to work around you as an individual. And they can come up with a blueprint that is so scientifically proven that if you follow it, you're going to look like a Greek goddess. But if you don't follow it, it is worth 0. Okay? If you don't adhere to what you're about to do, everything down here is out the window. Worthless completely, right? You want to make money, you get up, you get a job, you go to school, you get hired, you build a business, you do whatever you got to do, and you get paid for it. Knowing all that stuff and staying in bed gets you no paycheck at the end of the week, right? So all of this is worthless without adherence. So that is the number 1 priority. So that's the importance of you guys doing what you got to do. Now the rest of it is a little bit more scientific. Any guesses on what number 2 is? Which you may think is number 1 if we took this out of the picture. Most important thing, scientifically, to lose body fat. Not yet. Portion control? Okay, get a little deeper in that. How do I know what a right portion is? Scientific. How would I know how much?
Weigh it.
Weigh it? And what number am I looking for? I'm gonna weigh my
You
food.
gotta tell us.
So,
That's why we're here.
what you're saying leads into this, and the more precise answer is this. Energy balance. My car gets 10 miles a gallon. I want to travel 100 miles. How much gas do I put in my tank?
You have a word problem? I didn't sign up for that.
10 gallons, right? What happens if I put 10 gallons and I get 10 gallons a mile? I get to my destination 100 miles away and I'm at 0. That is a net change of none, right? If I put an extra gallon in, I get there, I have fuel left over. I put a little less, I don't get
So
to
you
where
have
I'm
to eat
going.
enough.
You have to have the energy balance that is equal to what your goal is. So if your goal is to gain mass, and again, mass could be muscle, fat, doesn't matter. If you want to gain mass, you must be in a caloric surplus. You must consume more energy than you expend on a daily basis, period. If you would like to reduce mass, again, fat or muscle, it's still mass, you must be in a caloric deficit. You cannot lose body fat so long as you're consuming more energy on a daily basis than you are expending. Cannot happen. TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. You have what's known as a BMR, it's your base metabolic rate. If you laid in bed and watched Netflix all day long and did not step foot out of bed, you're going to expend X amount of calories. That is by breathing, being alive, and sustaining your muscle without exercise or work. Your total daily energy expenditure has to take into account the fact that you don't lay in bed and watch Netflix all day, maybe not on Tuesdays, but you're active, you get up, you work, you have a life, you train, you do your things, right? So everyone's TDEE will differ greatly depending on that person, the amount of muscle mass that they carry, because more muscle mass means more energy expended for the same task, and obviously your lifestyle activity. So all this is used to determine your energy balance. Your energy balances were roughly estimated, and I say roughly because we weighed you and we did your body fat analysis. And your body fat analysis tells us what ratio of your total weight is body fat, which means the leftover is muscle and water and bones and organs, or what we refer to as lean mass, okay? So if your body fat percentage is higher than a healthy range, we need to reduce body fat to get that ratio down. How are we gonna do that? Easy. We're gonna feed you an energy balance that's conducive for sustaining muscle, but not body fat. So that brings us to our next thing. In order of priorities. Protein distribution. Protein is the building block of all your muscle tissues and a few organs as well. If you do not eat sufficient protein, you will be in a catabolic state. Your nitrogen balance will be negative, and your body will be catabolic. It'll do what I said before. It will take amino acids out of your muscle and use them to create glucose for energy, because you're not getting sufficient protein. Eating enough protein keeps you anabolic, meaning a muscle building and maintaining phase, and it prevents muscle wasting, okay? So your protein distribution, super important right after energy balance. Caloric intake versus expenditure, super important. Right below that, how much protein are you actually getting in? Why? Because again, we want to maintain our muscle, but not the fat. If I told you you can lose 10 pounds of muscle, and you didn't know any better, you'd say, cool, it's 10 pounds. But losing 10 pounds of muscle is not something you ever want to do. Next thing. Macro breakdown, or macronutrient breakdown. Within your energy balance, your total calories, there are 3 macronutrients. Not micro, but macro. Proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. That's it. Those are the only 3 things that your body recognizes as energy. You can make energy out of all 3. Again, carbohydrates break down into glucose, simplest form of sugar. Most efficient energy source, immediate. All right, immediate. You're walking and you're getting dizzy and lightheaded, you're going into a hypo state, grab a banana or a gel pack or a Gatorade, 5 minutes, oh, I'm feeling good. Instant energy. Carbs, intra-workout, pre-workout, all good in B vitamin complexes as well as carbohydrates, because those improve your energy levels immediately, okay? So your macro breakdown has to be such to support your lean mass and your workouts, but again, not your body fat. We want to make sure you have sufficient protein and that your carbohydrate intake is sufficient for your training. So many people these days are going after this keto fad of low carbs, carbs are the enemy, especially women. Carbs are the enemy, I gotta lose weight. And guess what? You're going to lose a lot of weight by reducing your carbs dramatically, and there's a reason for that. Carbohydrates are so important to your daily function and energy that the minute your body realizes that you're not getting a sufficient source, it goes into a process called gluconeogenesis, where it takes amino acids from your muscles, puts them into your liver, and makes glycogen or glucose for your muscles to use. You're breaking down muscle tissue for the sake of weight loss by not supporting your muscles with carbohydrates. Carbohydrates in your body are either in your bloodstream or in your muscle tissue stored as glycogen to be used for energy, okay? And all you know is that you have high blood sugar or low blood sugar. We know we have low blood sugar when we're feeling tired, fatigued, and dizzy. We know we have high blood sugar when we're hyper and we get an insulin response, and then 20 minutes later we're ready to take a nap, right? So eating simple sugars like candy and desserts hit your bloodstream really quickly, cause a massive insulin response, and then a crash. Eating carbohydrates that are starchy and have some fiber to them, have a slow processing digestive process, You can include proteins with them, which further slows digestion, and then you're going to be able to utilize those for energy and sustain all day. Okay, so there's a big difference between eating a cheesecake, feeling hyper and then crashing, or eating some brown rice with some chicken and then feeling stable all day. So your blood sugar is not going to be spiked up then. But carbs are not your enemy. You need them to sustain muscle, you need them for your workouts. If you're gonna cut carbs, you're gonna lose weight on the scale by losing muscle tissue. Your muscle tissue is directly responsible for your BMR, your base metabolic rate. And believe me, you don't want that to drop. Because that's how you burn calories when you sleep. You burn fat by having an elevated BMR, meaning more muscle mass. Lastly is micronutrients, supplements, and training. You see where training comes in on this? It is a priority, but it is number 5 on the list. You'll never outtrain your diet, ever. You can spend 2 hours a year killing yourself. Go next door, grab 2 slices of pizza, and have a positive energy balance compared to what you just did. So when women think I'm gonna get on a treadmill or take this class with a heart rate and burn 800 calories, what's the difference when you're eating 4,000 calories a day? What's the difference? It's not gonna change a damn thing. Your energy balance comes first, so long as I give you a plan you can adhere to. Now, years ago, we used to do this in a very scientific way. I would tell every person I coached, here is how many grams a day you need of protein, here's how many grams you need of carbs, and here's how many grams you need of fats. The problem was, well, the good thing was, this was really precise because I did it individually, and those numbers were scientifically driven by that person's starting point and goals. The problem was how many people, like yourselves, you think actually went home, went food shopping, prepped for the whole week, and actually weighed every single meal they ate. How many people do you think did that? Less than 30%. 70+% failed. Why? We lacked adherence. That's why that's up there. If I can't give you something you can do, I'd rather not give you anything. It's pointless. So your energy balance right now for all of you, and this is why I said earlier, if your goal is mass gain, stay after, the energy balance in all of your meal plans is negative. It is a caloric deficit. But understand something. Food density can come in 2 ways. It can come in a nutritional density, which means dense in calories, and it can come in volume density, which means dense in fiber. All of these meal plans are extremely fiber dense. Protein and fiber have something called a thermic effect. It takes your body longer to digest, therefore, satiety, they make you feel fuller longer, and they also increase the amount of calories you're burning for digesting your food. So they can have a 10% increase in your BMR. So the thermic effect of your food, coming from your protein and your fiber, not only supports your lean mass, but also keeps you fuller longer, so you don't go out and have temptations to binge or feel that you're under eating. The biggest complaint I get with these meal plans from people when they start, I never thought I could eat this much food. How am I gonna lose weight if I'm eating this much? I feel like I'm eating 10 times more than I've ever eaten before. And the difference is simple. If you're eating nutritionally dense foods, a little piece of a brownie will do nothing to keep you satisfied from hunger, but it can have 400 calories. 6 ounces of chicken and half a cup of rice can have the same amount of calories and hold you over for 4 hours. So by feeding you volumetrically dense foods instead of nutritionally dense foods, I'm able to keep you full longer, I'm able to support your goals, I'm able to help you adhere, because you're not starving yourself, you're still getting everything you need, and I'm able to keep you from raiding your fridge at night. Okay? Any questions at all here?